It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Linda J. Miller. Thank you so much for stopping by my home. And can I tell them why you were in town? You could stop by my hand?
Definitely.
Somebody just had her first grandson. Or grandchild.
Yes.
Yeah, little Alice. So woot woot to Alice. She is the CEO and owner of Paradise Dental Technologies. You might have heard it as PDT Inc. And it was born in her two-car garage in the year 2000, a new beginning based on more than 30 years' experience in the dental industry. She wanted to bring fresh and improved products to hygienists, growing out of those decades of listening to your observations, ideas, suggestions, and new technology. The corporate name Paradise Dental Technologies came from her determination that her employees, dental partners, and patients have the finest possible products available in the marketplace. It should be paradise. Dental instrument design, evolution, and development has been her professional life for 30 plus years, and it's always been fascinating and rewarding. It has been fun and interesting to work in clinics around the world, see new techniques, and address ongoing issues. There are always new technologies to explore and examine, so many ways to make things better. She is proud to offer what she believes are the most carefully designed and handcrafted dental instruments available, as well as the fastest, easiest, and most cost-effective instrument sharpening system she has ever seen. She wants you to look at her Amazing Graceys, Wingrove Implant Scalers, Micro-Serrated Periotomes, and ACE Furcation Probes. All are innovative and exciting products born from ideas brought to her by practitioners like you, and now touching lives in more than 30 different countries. She loves what she does. She enjoys working with dentists and hygienists. So tell us about your 30 years experience. What was your 30 years experience, and how did that lead into starting Paradise Dental Technologies in the year 2000, which was already 17 years ago? Does that mean you've been in this industry combined for 47?
I've been in this industry since 1981.
Wow.
So a long time.
And where did you begin at? What was in 1981?
In 1981, I started with American Dental Instrument Manufacturing.
Now, isn't that in Montana too?
It was.
It was.
I was very fortunate. I got a job there when jobs were hard to get in Missoula, Montana. And I started out in inventory control. I went out into production and learned every step of manufacturing, which little did I know.
You should embellish the story and say you started in the mailroom.
I did. No.
You got to include the mail in there somehow. I'm sure you delivered a letter to some desk.
I did.
Some cubicle.
Yes. And fortunately, I went into the quality inspection. They needed a quality manager, so I became their quality manager within the first year of being there. I had a beautiful metallurgy lab, so I just dove into metallurgy testing and learned a lot about different steels and how to heat treat them, looking at grain structures, and did a lot of testing, working with customers, designing instruments way back then. And then 11 years later, when Hugh Freedy bought American Dental, they moved the company to Chicago.
And that's where Hugh Freedy is in Chicago.
It is,
so when they bought American Dental, how many employees did it have?
They had 65 employees.
And that was in 1981?
That was in 1992.
So in 1992, Hugh Freedy out of Chicago buys it and moves the company to Chicago.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And they offered a few of us jobs in Chicago, but at the time I had 30 acres, I was single, I had a couple horses I'd ride every day, and I wasn't a city girl. So I stayed in Montana. I started a quality control consulting business, helped start a lot of different medical device companies in the western Montana region. And then a core group of us from the old American Dental started another company. We pulled our money together and started American Eagle Instruments. And so I was her quality manager.
So you were a co-founder of American Eagle?
I was.
Wow, and who did you do that with?
There were 13 of us from the old company, and then we brought in another investor to help us out.
Right on.
And I was in the field 3 weeks a month because I became one of the sales managers. And I loved going to schools. I loved going to dental offices, sit, watch what they were doing. I developed the first lightweight, large handle, the Eagle Light handle, because I was doing a program for Willamette Dental or Kaiser Permanente, actually, their big group practice. I was going to lecture to 120 hygienists.
Wow.
The person who lectured right before me was their workers' comp agent, and was telling them what a 10% of their workforce was out on workers' comp and how these little instruments were killing them. And I just wanted to crawl under the table instead of get up there and speak. So I had to get up and say, hey, I'm the one that's killing you. What can we do about that? And so then I started on my quest to really dive into ergonomics and say, we need to make better instruments. So I developed the Eagle Light handle, and over the next years while I was with American Eagle, there were other directions I thought instruments needed to go, and they weren't quite ready to go that way. So in 2000, I sold my share of American Eagle, and I bought an old mill and punch press. In fact, the mill and punch press that were the start of American Dental, from the widow of the gentleman who'd started American Dental, and started building the benders, the dies, the everything to make instruments again, and we launched Paradise.
That is so awesome. You know, today, young entrepreneurs, they don't want to get their hands dirty, and their first thought is, well, how can I find someone in China to make this?
Oh.
And you look at these stupid stories where some even big companies, like they outsource all their golf club construction in China. Now they're going to the federal government, the Justice Department, to sue China because now they're selling them to other places in China. So it's like, okay, so you didn't want to provide jobs in America, so you have the Chinese make them, and now you want the lady working at the Waffle House getting $12 an hour for her taxes to go to the Justice Department to pay people. I mean, I love the fact that you just said, if I'm going to make an instrument, I'm going to make an instrument right here in Montana. That is a country girl.
We're going to keep all of our manufacturing in Montana.
Were you born in Montana?
I was born in Kansas.
Oh, that's right. You were born in Lawrence, Kansas.
Lawrence, Kansas.
KU.
Yes.
So you've been a country girl. You were a Midwest country girl. Now you consider Montana the Northwest, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that is so cool. And in my 30 years, everything we've outsourced has been a disaster.
Yes.
I can't imagine outsourcing something all the way around the planet into Asia. I mean,
No.
Because you have to walk the floor to smell all the little things. The idea is a dime a dozen, but executing the details is everything.
Well, and I'm a quality geek because of my quality background as the quality manager. Everything has to be just right. So we have really tight tolerances, plus or minus 0.02 of an inch, which a piece of paper is 0.04 of an inch thick. So we have tight tolerances. And as we train people, because we're always growing, we're in 48 countries now, we're number 2 in the U.S., and we've been very blessed by
Number 2 in the U.S., who's number 1?
Hugh Freedy.
Well, that's a 100-year-old company.
It is.
Isn't it? How old is that company?
104 years old.
104, and how old are you? 17.
17.
So to be a 17-year-old company, number 2 to 104, that's epic.
Yeah.
So when you launched 2000, I'm just going to pretend we're on Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful or Mark Cuban. In 2000, when you launched, what product did you think would carry the day? What did you think when you were making a product? What was your first product, and what did you think was hot and all that, and could carry the company to the next product and the next product?
Well, our core products to start out with were hygiene instruments, curettes, scalers, explorers, probes, anything that a hygienist.
Say that again. The hygiene was what? Curettes?
Curettes and scalers and explorers and probes with very ergonomic handles, because 44% of hygienists suffer from carpal tunnel, and so we wanted to bring them relief, bring them the tactile sensitivity, make it much more comfortable for them. But then I also looked at the curvature of the blades, because blades over the years really haven't been that anatomical, and they haven't improved that much. And so we developed instruments like our Amazing Graceys, which actually...
It's Amazing Grace.
It is. We came up with that name in a hot tub with bottles of wine.
Who sang that song, Amazing Grace?
Oh, it's a good old Christian song. Lots of people have sang it.
That's a great song. I don't mean to interrupt you or back you up, but there's podcasters are young. And
Yes.
I always say, email me, howard@dentaltown.com, and tell me who you are, where you're from, Like to see all those countries and states, but you wouldn't believe how many are D1, D2, D3. So you said
Wow.
curette scalers.
Yes.
So that might have flown right over their head. What's the difference between a curette and a scaler?
A curette has a rounded toe and it goes subgingival. A scaler has a pointed toe and it is for supragingival scaling, removing the heavy-duty calculus. And our Montana Jack, we developed a Montana Jack in
That's a cheese.
2002.
So we've gone from a song to a piece of cheese.
We have.
So what was the number one then? What was the number one? You said then you went to a Montana Jack.
Well, we developed the Amazing Graceys because
Okay, the
Graceys
Amazing
have
Graceys.
always had a straight blade. So in dental school and hygiene school, you're always taught place the blade against the tooth, rotate the toe in. Why? I mean, then only the first 1/3 of that blade is in contact with the tooth. The heel of the blade is distending the tissue. So we put a continuous curve on the blade so it actually has continuous contact with the tooth. So 1 stroke instead of 3 strokes, so you're not distending the tissue and you don't put that extra tweak on your hand. It just seems like common sense, but I'm a country girl. I look at common sense.
And common sense is not very common.
No, it's not.
It's amazing how uncommon it is.
Yes. And then our Montana Jack is kind of a mixture between 204S and an H67, which were the most popular instruments for anterior and posterior scaling.
Say those instruments again.
204S
204S
and an H67,
and an H67.
which are posterior and anterior scalers. And the Montana Jack, it's got just the right amount of contra angle. So it adapts much easier. It's more comfortable for the patient, more comfortable for the practitioner to adapt throughout the mouth with the instrument. Hygienists voted it as the #1 scaler they can't live without.
And where was that vote?
Actually, that was a quote that CRA came back with.
CRA. Gordon. And his wife's a hygienist. Rella.
Yeah.
Hygienist and a PhD in microbiology.
Yes.
So CRA, nice.
Yeah. So we've been very fortunate.
So on the ergonomics, is the instrument getting fatter so it's easier to handle?
It is. It's,
I like anything that's getting fatter because I've been getting fatter for 30 years now.
Should I grab
Yeah,
one out
yeah,
so we can
absolutely,
see?
absolutely.
Okay. Our instruments I worked with orthopedic surgeons and physical therapists, and the best diameter is 10 millimeters in diameter, and equal to or less than 15 grams in weight. And our instruments are 10 millimeters in diameter.
I never thought of grams associated with a dental instrument. I always say grams in drugs. That's the only time I don't. I have to use the metric system. No. Nice.
So you can see how light that is?
So they're lighter and fatter.
They are. And then the grip also comes all the way down, where most grips stop partway back. So, and you can see the knurls very open.
You know, I gotta tell you a story about this. When I got out of school in '87, there was no rotary endo, so it was all hand files.
Yes.
From '87 to probably '95, I had 2 blisters on my front finger, and I always thought, why is that head so little? I mean, because you had to pinch it, and sometimes you'd be in the middle of a root canal, and you'd just be slapping your hand around, getting some blood in your fingers, and then I thought, it's too late to try to be ambidextrous and use the other hand, But I mean, they could have just made that little head fatter, and people wouldn't have been jumping into rotary as fast as they did because you just had to get away from that little bitty thing.
Oh, yes.
So fatter and lighter, 10 grams. So you like it 10 millimeters.
10 millimeters, and ours are actually 13 grams in weight.
13 grams.
And 15 is, you want to be 15 or under to be a healthy instrument because weight's residual in your tendons and ligaments.
Yeah.
And then the wider diameter, you don't have to pinch as much. Then we have this big knurl, which is wide and easy to clean, but also it gives you great control without a heavy pinch.
Do you think it's also would add beneficial if you use the right hand and the left hand gloves? I know a lot of dental offices buy the cheapest glove So if you got some really cheap mono glove on, even with a greater instrument. But I've seen a lot of dentists who thought they were going to carpal tunnel. I had an associate that had to have double carpal tunnel.
Yes.
And a lot of people think, well, maybe if you had a nicer glove, the right, left. Do you buy into any of that?
I do.
You
I
do?
do. Because if they're mono glove, the right and left actually form fit better. And so you don't get the pinching in your hands, too.
Yeah.
So it is more comfortable for the...
Yeah, a friend of mine saw I was having so many back problems and popping my neck after, I think it was 94. So from 87 to 94, he already saw me getting jacked up. So one day he came in, didn't even ask me, went in today's dental, right by my office deal, and hung a pull-up bar. He said, you know what you need to do? You need to come, that was with when Tom Giacobbe and Sam Dominic were there. And it was amazing after like an hour-long root canal, you're all jacked up. So then you think, well, I should go in the big room and snack on something. But I would go back there and I would try to do, the first time you put that up, I could do like one pull-up. And after a while, I got up to like 7 or 8 or 9. But, I mean, the ergonomics is serious.
Oh, yes.
I mean, you just can't sit there. And, I got this 10-pound bald bowling ball and wanting direct vision. And ergonomics is everything.
Oh, it is. Even in our factory. We had a physical therapist come in, and every hour we stand up and do exercises together that a physical therapist came up with for us. Just because we truly practice what we preach. We think it's so important. You've got to look after your health first.
Yeah. And what's sad is, the podcasters are younger. They're probably mostly, I noticed that Dentaltown had 250,000 dentists, but when we came out with the app, we're now up to 60,000 downloads, and most of them were born after 1980, so they're millennials. Wow. And you younger kids have to realize that you can't abuse your body for 10, 20, 30 years. You can abuse it when you're young. I mean, if I went out drinking like I did in college, I'd probably have liver failure. You can get away with murder in your 20s, but long-term repetitive abuse after 10, 20, 30 years, you can get disabled by this stuff.
Oh, yes. And it is so important to have an ergonomic handle. Studies show that up to 70% of dentists have carpal tunnel and hand and wrist issues, and we can help alleviate that by using the right instruments and prolong your career, be able to do the things you want to do outside of your practice too. But also give good patient care because you have less tissue distension, you have greater control, greater adaptation.
So how long does it take to make something like this from start to finish?
In our processes, it takes about 3 weeks.
3 weeks to make an instrument.
There are so many different steps, and because of the specialized heat treat process we do, we have special heat treat furnaces and then special cryogenic processes they have to go through. Heat treating is a recipe, and so these will actually hold their edge twice as long.
Because they're heat treated.
Yeah,
so,
because of our special heat treating.
Okay, so back in the day, there was also people using cold technology. They'd say if you take a metal and freeze it down to absolute zero, that changes properties. And so I've seen people talk about cold and heat.
We combine them.
Okay, so tell me about that.
And so we heat treat them first, but we have different times and temperatures in the heat treat process and different cooling processes. That's all proprietary. But we get our stainless steel up to 58 to 60 Rockwell C hardness. Most instruments on the market today are 52 to 54 Rockwell C. So these are much
you're a
harder.
Complete nerd, right?
I am.
Has anybody told you were not a nerd?
No. So normally if an instrument, stainless steel is that hard, it's going to break. Now our instrument, we then throw it through that cryogenic process, a special cryogenic process. So that deep freezing.
That's some kind of liquid nitrogen?
A little bit further advanced than that, but yes,
Yeah.
it's using programs like that. And you can see I can put 20 pounds pressure on this and it's not going to break. Where normal instruments, you put 6 pounds pressure on it, it's going to snap. But then with our hardness, it's also holds its edge 2 to actually 7 times longer than other instruments that are out on the market. So less resharpening. But the beautiful thing is you can resharpen them, and so you can continue to use them for most people use them for about 2 years in their practice. Where a lot of the coated instruments these days, you use them, they cost twice as much as this. You use them for 3 months, you throw them away and you buy a new one. These, you use them for 2 years. It's better on the environment. It's better on your hand because once an instrument starts going dull, it needs to be resharpened. You don't want to keep using it because you'll just burnish the calculus in place. Or you won't be able to get, if you're trying to trim interproximally, you won't be able to get that cement off. You won't be able to get the overhangs like you could with a good, tough, sharp instrument.
Yeah, another way explorers will last twice as long, especially in the hygiene room, is you have a hygienist. She went to 4 years of college. She says she got a stick on number 3. And you look at that with a mirror and there's a black hole. Black means that photons of light are flying into that hole and not coming out. What do you need, a Ouija board? A CAT scan? Do you think the patient wants you to stick their hole again? And you stand by these dentists and then the hygienist will say, I got to stick on number 3. So she'll, well, hand me that explorer. She'll stick real good. And the patient's like jump down a chair. And then she'll say, don't blow air on the buckle of the canine. It's real sensitive. Really? Well, give me the air water syringe. And she'll say, well, don't tap on the first bicuspid. It's got an abscess. Really? Give me the instrument. Let me bang on it. It's like your explorer lasts twice long. The hygienist says she had a stick on 3. She's either A, correct, or B, a pathological liar. Just solve that. I don't think the patient wants stuck, air blown, and pounded on a tooth again.
That's right.
I mean, it's funny. At 30 years of dentistry, I can diagnose occlusal decay with a mirror.
Yes.
There's a reason
Yes.
something's black, and there's another reason some enamel is white.
That's right.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
so what else? So then, what are you showing me now?
And we do coat instruments too, but I coat my composite instruments so they have a non-stick finish.
Nice. Yeah, it's amazing. I'm so used to only looking at instruments with 3.8 loops on.
Oh yes.
It's like So what's the coating process like? How does that happen?
It's titanium nitride coating. We actually send it away for a special coating.
Yeah.
Because our specialty is making the steel and the handles.
That's so cool that you make something.
Yes.
I mean, my dad was interesting, and when he went on a family vacation, my dad, he turned into a kid. And he only had 2 things he wanted to do. He wanted to go to another city and go to their Six Flags over Texas, Disneyland, Disney World, a theme park, and you go visit their factories. And so, when we went to Denver, most people just go straight to the ski slopes. Dad stopped by Coors Beer, and we got the whole tour. They're like you. They make their glass. They actually make their that Adolf Coors. He was like you. He just I'm not outsourcing anything. We went to when we were going to buy a station wagon. Dad would only buy a station wagon if we could all drive to Chicago on a family vacation and watch it go through the whole deal. And we got in this golf cart tour thing and followed our car from start to finish and watched it wheel off the end. And then I transferred that to my boys when we always went to vacation. How many dental companies did we stop at?
100.
And 100. And do you remember those stories?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, some of their best friends, like Fred Joyle. I mean, see his deal, go to his home. ADEC equipment.
Oh, yes.
At one end was just pallets of leather and plastic and metal beads, and then 100 yards down at the other end, dental chairs are coming off.
Oh, yeah.
I just think that is so cool. And you can we next time I'm in Missoula, Montana, I want to come see this. I would just absolutely love that.
I would love that.
Yeah, in
Yes.
fact, what would be fun? Selfishly, you should start like you should have like a trout fishing, fly fishing.
Oh yes. You play
Education
fish?
weekend.
Us?
Well, I attempt. I try.
I do
really
too.
suck.
Yeah.
I'd rather catch fish with a shotgun and a barrel of water. But yeah, that would be really fun to have a continuing education, Montana flight, and we got to do it soon
yes.
before Yellowstone blows. And
That's right.
The whole place is gone. I hear they've been having.
Right now we're just covered in smoke.
So then, what else? What else are you going to show me?
Well, we also, our focus is comfort for the patient, comfort for the practitioner. So I do have serrated periotomes as well, which have.
And you got to explain what a peritome is. There might be someone listening that doesn't know.
A periotome is an extraction instrument, and with our serrated periotomes, if I can borrow this. This is our anterior. We actually slide down next to the tooth. We saw back and forth and cut through the periodontal ligament. And it's a very atraumatic way to extract a tooth. So I can come on around here and then saw completely around the tooth, and it's amazing. Once that periodontal ligament is released, then the tooth just pops right up. And there's
now
very minimal.
that alone, you should get a product champion to do a course on, because what I see all the young kids doing is they try to use their bicep and tricep with a forcep.
Yes.
And they try to grab the tooth and they break off the half, and then they can't get out the root. And the thing that you have to understand with the periotome is hydraulics. If I put the Empire State Building in a beaker of water, I could just stick my finger in a hole, and whatever the volume of my finger was, I could lift the Empire State Building, just the way hydraulics works. And when you place those periotomes and you go around and you use a periotome and you go down, two things happen. Number one, when you're splitting that periodontal ligament away from the tooth, it starts leaking fluid.
Yes.
And it starts swelling. So
Yes.
it's lifting the tooth, it's pushing the tooth out for you. And one of my best tricks you can do is, if you're using your periotome, you're using I remove probably 99% of my extractions with only periotomes and small elevators.
Beautiful.
About the only time I use a forcep is if just to pick up the tooth. Maybe it fell off into the sulcus or whatever, and I want to pick it up. But sometimes when you're doing that and the tooth just doesn't seem to budge, stop. Take off your gloves. Go do a hygiene check. Go see him on a crown. Come back. That baby's waving in the wind because that periotome starts this inflammatory reaction, this trauma swelling, and my gosh. And then if the crown did break, you can easily pick out the root tip because it's already being swollen. Periotomes are the most overlooked thing in oral surgery. What percent of dentists do you think use periotomes routinely in their extractions?
Very small. I'd almost guess 15%.
Yeah.
That's just a guess.
Yeah, well, and when you say a number like that, usually it always ends up being the 80-20 rule.
Yes.
So probably 80, and then what do? They tell you, oh, I hate extractions. And then they refer it all out to their oral surgeon while they have $350,000 student loans. And I always say that's a self-limiting belief in your head. When you suck at something, is why you hate it. So when you suck at something, that's when you start reading and searching and getting on Dental Town and Hygiene Town and finding out, how can I master it? And then you'll find out that thing that you hated, now that you mastered it. I mean, if you could pull all your teeth in a minute, really, would you hate oral surgery? So you were back there working on a tooth for an hour, solve that problem, get that to under 5 minutes, and then you'll love oral surgery.
Oh,
and
exactly.
Periotomes, it's a must. It's a no-brainer. It's a...
Oh, it is. Now, traditional periotomes, you actually do a lot of ripping and tearing. With these, it's just a nice clean cut, too, which is beautiful because the sulcus remains intact, and you can just...
The way you said beautiful, you were into this, man. That's what you said. That was beautiful. It's like she was looking at the Mona Lisa, and it was a periotome.
It's still, yeah. I do. I go and I observe and I watch and I see what challenges practitioners have so that we can create solutions.
And that's why on Dental Town versus Orthodown, Dental Town, when I started having it, people would get mad and they'd say, hey, there's non-dentists getting here. Because the goal was, if you work full-time in dentistry, you can get on Dental Town. And they'd say, well, there's a person from a company and they're going to try to sell stuff. And I'm like, oh, really, dude? Are you a volunteer? Where are you a volunteer? You work in public health? Tell me what Indian reservation you're on. I mean, it's like, because my belief, and Orthotown still does not believe that. It's still, you have to be an orthodontist. I own Orthotown and can't get on it. It's a orthodontist only. And I think it's silly because if all the hygienists or dentists are saying, the problem is all the instruments are red and they need to be blue. Well, God, you have to be the one that knows that. If you don't know it, they're just bitching and moaning and complaining. Yes. And the amount of, and I'm surprised at how many companies in dentistry just don't go to the search bar, put in their company's name, and read everything about it. And who they love the most to hear from? If I say Microsoft, you think Bill Gates. If I say Apple, you say Steve Jobs. They love the CEOs. If dentists and hygienists are ever given a chance to buy from a faceless institution versus someone I'll say, well, why do you use that company? And they'll say, oh, I met Dan Fisher in an elevator, and that was the game changer.
Yes.
And you're the CEO and the owner. You should do a search for all these and have your logo be your face, because when they're in Salina, Kansas, and Manhattan, Kansas, they want to when they feel like they have a relationship with the owner. I think that's
And actually, on the way over here, I was talking to Ben about how shy I am, and I said, "Is it okay if when I see these challenges that I reach out to people on Dental Town and say, hey, I see you're having a challenge with this. Would you be interested in working on something?"
Oh, I'll tell you what. There's some of the biggest labs in the world that lost so much business because little labs would get on there and show cases. Or a dentist would complain about the lab and he'd say, dude, look at the impression. It still has a bloody cotton roll in it. I mean, we're not magicians. And the labs that got in there engaged exploded. There are so many small dental labs in America that I could just drive to their house, knock on their front door, and they'd take me in for 3 days and feed me. Because they tell me, how many have told me, they say, I built my business on Dental Town. Now, if they're just going there and saying, if you need information, private message me or email, or here's a coupon, no. But if you're sharing like a passionate person, but then in your signature you have your logo, your name, and your email, and all that stuff. Okay. I don't think sales is a 4-letter word, and the reason, in fact, in Dental Town, for years, I used to do a company profile on the cover of each one, and I loved it. I mean, I absolutely loved it. Going back to as a child, going to all these factories, and I would always tell the dentist, if you took away about 500 dental companies, you would be on a rug with stuff from Home Depot chucking teeth on a sidewalk. I mean, the only reason we look good is all this amazing technology. But a lot of dentists, they thought, well, it's a throwaway rag, there's an advertiser on the cover. And then I'm like, okay, dude, right now you have an ad on Facebook, you have an ad on your website, you do direct mail. So monkeys are judgmental because they're hardwired as a social creature to obey up and down. So they obey the 400-pound gorilla. And there was some neat research Ryan and I were reading the other day where in these monkey tribes, gorillas, chimpanzees, orangutans, they're always bullying someone. So they take away that ape, that primate, and guess what? They just find someone else, start bullying them. Because how you adore up and worship the 400-pound gorilla and obey him, that chain of command has to go to the bottom. So it's part of social cohesiveness. So bullying, when 5 guys beat up Timmy, that's a bonding exercise. So those 5 guys, someone's the 400-pound gorilla, but if someone's the leader of the pack, someone has to be at the bottom. Right. And so it's a primate behavior. So they're very judgmental. Yes. So they're always judgmental. So the dentist can sell dentistry and advertise, but a manufacturer can't sell dentistry. And when my team told me, how many years ago did we have to take that away?
I don't know, 3?
3 years ago. I was sad because I loved corporate profiles. I mean, Ryan says he went to 100 dental manufacturing companies, and I always have learned so much when I walk through there. I mean, when you walk through that, you get a greater understanding.
Oh.
Yeah, you should post videos. I mean, whatever. I would,
all the detail that goes into it, and with our tight tolerances, we do have seconds, and which most people. Looking at the instrument, you can't tell it's a second. It looks like a brand new instrument. But we service over 400 missions around the world through our seconds, and then also we have an earth care program where people send their old used instruments to us. We refurbish what we can, and then we help out missions around the world.
You help 400 missions?
At least 400 missions around the world.
I didn't even know there was 400 dental missions going on. How do you get in touch with 400 missions?
People contact us. And then also we work with the big mission groups that have multiple missions.
So we have 50 categories on Dental Town. One of them is Humanitarian.
Oh, okay.
And we broke up Humanitarian to missionary and charitable because there was some confusion about that. But mission is more religious based. Charitable is more just not non-religious based. Because some people truly, when they go and want to do a mission, like they want to go someplace where they're worshiping and converting and all that. And other people just want to go in there and get the teeth fixed. But
we,
you should.
We want to help people.
Yeah,
that's the bottom line.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
And gosh darn, you should tell everybody what you're doing on the Humanitarian section of Downtown. That is really cool.
too.
Now, where was that on your journey? Where did you go from nerd to missionary? Now I'm thinking you're part hippie. You're part nerd, part hippie.
I'm not a, people think I am because of my hair. No, but I don't know. I just care about people. And,
Nice. And
really,
where do you think that comes from?
I grew up in a wonderful family in Kansas. And just the things that I've seen happen over the years and in my travels, we all have to take care of everybody.
Yeah, we're seeing that in Houston now.
Yes.
And I remember that in
Yes.
Kansas. God, I don't want to get choked up, but I remember there were farmers right at plowing time.
Mm-hmm.
And there'd be my friends, and the combine broke down right at harvest time.
Yes.
And rains in the forecast, and all their neighbors would plow their wheat.
Oh, yes. Yes. Well, back in Montana right now, we have people,
Yeah.
hundreds of people evacuated from their homes.
From the fires.
From the fires. And so, yeah, several of our employees, it's like, okay, if you get evacuated, here's the key to my house.
And
I might not be there.
You know, you talk to a lot of
this is-
people about climate change back in Kansas, and you talk to older people, they got legitimate concerns. They go, dude, read a history of Kansas. Remember the Dust Bowls?
Oh, yes.
I mean, the whole state was dried out and desolated while they weren't even driving Model Ts.
That's
So
right.
so whether there's probably more to every. I mean, I'm not a climate denier or nothing like that, but I'm a firm believer in that. Everybody talks about what they know, but nobody knows what they don't know. And you look back, growing up in Kansas. I mean, that whole place. I mean, what do you remember the
yes.
years that was, or when that was, or? But God, the whole state, everybody. I mean, they were building mud huts and digging in for years.
Oh, yes.
And everybody, it was like, get the hell out of Kansas. And so what caused that? I mean, climate's weird.
It is. It's cyclic.
Yeah,
Yeah, always has been.
yeah.
It's
So the fire's pretty bad?
very bad.
Very bad.
Unhealthy. We have over 500,000 acres on fire right now
500,000 acres on fire. Is that in your Missoula?
in our area. Yeah.
In your area?
And the mountains around us.
And how many people live in Missoula versus the capital, Helena?
We have about 100,000 in Missoula and the surrounding area, and I think Helena's about 60,000.
So you're bigger than the capital, just like
Yeah.
Kansas. You know, Wichita's bigger than Topeka.
Yes, yes. But we have a university there, Montana University,
Yeah.
which is
I want to ask you, and go to a whole other area, dental implants. When they started placing dental implants, first they were saying, well, you can't scratch the surface. You got to have these plastic instruments. And I'm the first to call bullshit. It's like, okay, well, might as well give me one made out of bamboo because I'm not doing anything. It's not removing anything. There's still a lot of confusion. What do you think about cleaning around dental implants, especially considering that at 60 months, just 5 years, 20% of implants placed in the United States of America have PeriImplantitis?
agreed. I think that plastic, I'm a research geek, plastic does leave plastic behind on implants, so that's not a good thing to use. We developed medical grade titanium implants with Susan Wingrove, who actually wrote the book.
Yeah, we did a
Implant
podcast with her.
She's amazing.
She is amazing.
Yes. And so I truly believe in soft titanium. Now, hard titanium will scratch your implants and change
So
the
medical grade
surface.
is softer.
Well, and you have to be careful not your heat treating processes. This is one case where you want to keep them soft. Some that we've tested have been quite hard and they will scratch the implants, but a soft titanium does not scratch the implants. It doesn't leave debris behind, and it doesn't.
So do you have like an implant kit?
We do.
You do.
We have the Susan Wingrove.
Is it really named after Susan Wingrove?
It is. It's a Wingrove.
Shout out to Susan. Thanks for doing my show. It was an awesome show.
She is fabulous. We have the Wingrove.
So how did you
go-to
meet
kit.
Susan?
At a dental show.
Oh, I thought it'd be like some drunken party.
No. Then she moved to Montana.
Did she move to Montana?
She did.
Did she really? I didn't remember. I didn't pick that up.
When after her husband passed
Oh,
away,
that's right.
she
That's right.
moved to Montana. She actually stayed at my house until she got settled, and I said,
What a friend.
Don't.
So when her
don't
husband
find a
passed away, she
place."
moved in with you?
Well, she stayed in Iowa for a little bit, and decided she'd always wanted to move west. So I said, well, don't buy a place, just come see if this is where you want to be, find out where you want to be. And so she moved in with me. My daughter said, oh my gosh, she's your twin sister. And and our backgrounds, it seems we only met
She was
maybe
Iowa,
10
you
years
were
ago, 11 years
Kansas.
ago. She was Minnesota when she grew up, and then she moved to Iowa for Frank. But yeah, I worked in the Boundary Waters canoe area in Minnesota for 2 years while I was going to college, and so Susan and I had so many parallels in our background. We just became instant friends. And
This sounds like a movie.
it is.
You should talk to
We
Steven
need to write a
Spielberg
book.
about this. This is a
But I mean, even from playing an oboe, which who plays oboe? Running cross country, all these different things. We were the same. But she developed these 3 instruments with me.
So your implant hygiene kit is 3 instruments.
Yes, and a plastic probe with 1 millimeter marking, so you have good engagement. And I do have that probe in that. Yeah, there we go. So the B56. This is really good for your bulbous crowns to get up and around.
Is that why it's a B? B for bulbous?
Well, it's similar to a Barnhart 5.6, and so we left it as a B56. Then Nebraska 128 on one end and a Langer 5 Mini on the other end. This is great to get inside those threads. If you have exposed threads, you can clean them out very easily, as well as when you have the long bar implants, you can get up and underneath those long bars where with a plastic instrument you can't even reach in there. You can get into the locators with the other end of this instrument so easily as well. And then the L34 is great to get into the narrow base crowns, as well as if you have fixed restorations, you can get in and clean up underneath there. If you have platform switched implants, you can get in and around those as well. And then you have...
Now you just said the technical thing. You said platform switch.
Oh,
so you got to explain it.
Okay, a platform switched implant actually you have your flat surface up here, and then you have a cutout underneath here where hopefully the bone actually grows up to that, but in some cases there is a gap there. And how do you get in and clean that? And so the L34, you can actually come down next to it and then swing that blade in there and clean.
Have you ever shown this to the major implant companies to try to get them to...
Yes, actually the Straumanators talk about this.
Straumanators?
Yes,
So that's
all of their
Straumann.
lectures, yes.
You call Strum and Lecture Straumanators?
Yes.
Nice. We just podcasted the CEO of Straumann, Marco Gadola, from Switzerland. I was lecturing in the capital of Canada, Ottawa.
Yes.
And we thought we'd do the first live podcast in front of a live audience and see what that was like. It was so cool. He was in Switzerland. I was in the capital of Canada, and the questions were amazing.
Great.
He was just brilliant, and I mean, because he's the #1 seller of implants in the world.
They are.
Because you have Straumann, and then he's lots of other mergers and acquisitions.
Yes.
About the largest implant company in Brazil. Many companies. So Straumann likes these.
They do.
Well,
They
they're
do.
the biggest implant company in the world, so that's
are.
huge.
Yes, and we try to work with them. I'm trying to work with them as if they have new implants that are coming out. I'd like to take a look at them first to make sure that we have the proper maintenance instruments, because in years past, new implants have come out and then it's like, how do we maintain these? And so I'm trying to get ahead of the game. And I am working with Dr. Pinheiro on the West Coast. He's an excellent lecturer, excellent researcher, has dental practice, prosthodontist. And we're designing even some more implant instruments with Susan Wingrove that will work better with the all-on-4s and things like that are really up and coming.
My God, you're a mover and a shaker.
I'm a geek.
You're a geek.
I love what I do.
And
Yes.
What about your work-life balance? It sounds like someone that's sun up to sundown 7 days a week. Or do you?
I have a great team of people. But I have still a 12-year-old daughter at home, and so
Yeah.
I.
And that's too old. At 12, that's too old to give away to foster care. I mean, you know,
Never
yeah.
wouldn't want to.
Once you're
Yeah.
over 6, you're kind of stuck with them. You know?
Oh, she's fabulous. And I guess one of my outside passions is motorcycles. So
Seriously?
I'll
So you
jump
ride
on-
horses and motorcycles?
Well, when I started traveling so much, I had to sell all my horses, so I bought an iron horse, and now I ride my motorcycles to a lot of my sales meetings and things like that. So
Wow, what kind of motorcycle?
I have a Harley, and which I ride on my long trips, and then I also have a Tiger, an on-road, off-road bike, enduro,
Wow.
a Triumph Tiger.
I can embarrass the hell out of another dentist out there. The only time I was ever chased by the police was in high school with my buddy. We went from 7th grade to the end of dental school. His name is John Leese. He's the endodontist out in Orange County. And we used to do the dirt bikes. And they had that dike going down the Arkansas River. So you could ride up that dike, and the goal was to stay airborne until you went down the other side. And everybody did it, and me and John Leese we did, but the police thought we were hurting this dike, which I thought was so unfair because this dike, it's the size of a house. And what are we making, a little foot groove into it? But yeah, motorcycles are so fun. So do you get worried on there? Does the safety scare you? Or because I'm not really, like in Missoula, is the traffic low enough to where?
Yeah, in Missoula and Montana, we don't
Yeah.
have that much traffic, so it's nice to get up in the mountains on the curvy roads, go up through Glacier Park on a bike.
I test drove a. It was actually a friend of mine. Let me ride to work to my dental office back for 1 week with his Harley. I'm in Phoenix,
Yes.
and then the other thing that was horrible is I'm west of my office. So when I drove to work at 7 a.m., the sun was in my eyes, and then when I came home, the sun was setting and the sun was in my eyes. And I just thought, okay, you do this back and forth every day for a decade or two, you'll crash. But in Missoula, that would be a huge benefit.
Yes, it's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then I also like fly fishing and hiking, and so we do a lot.
I think
About
Montana,
horses.
if you live in Phoenix, it's the most perfect place in the winter.
Yes.
But in the summer, you're like, not so good. I've always thought, how can I have a dental office and a business where I'm in Phoenix in the winter and in Montana, Idaho, or Alaska in the summer? And then the president of our company, Lori's Alaska, she says every summer, how can we have Dental Town move to San Diego? And but I go down to San Diego, and I mean, my gosh, last time I was down there, I saw this nice little quaint house. It was really small, and I thought, this would be really cool. And I asked for the price. It was 3 times more expensive than my home. I'm
oh
like,
my!
it's
Wow.
like you got to be a rock star to live there. But so what implants? That is amazing. And what advice would you give on PeriImplantitis? I mean, since we're really in tricky times right now, because right now the bottom line is I podcast every periodontist, expert, oral surgeon, implantologist. No one's agreeing even on a diagnosis, treatment plan, protocol for PeriImplantitis. No. So we're sitting here at 2017, placing 3 million implants a year in the United States, where 21 in 5 gets PeriImplantitis. We don't have a protocol. We don't know how to treat it. No, as far as we don't have an agreed consensus. What's your thoughts on all that?
Well, the studies have shown it, that I've seen, 60% of failed implants are due to cement being left behind. And with instrumentation that people have been using, it can't get the cement off, really. And with the titanium instruments, you can without gouging the implant. So
And what do you think? I mean, you own a company. I own a dental office.
Yes.
What do you think about the owners of these companies selling cement that says dental implant cement? It says it right on the tape, and then you leave a little flash, and it's toxic.
Oh, I think
I
it's
mean,
awful.
how would I like to buy? I mean,
Right.
God, how does that work? And then that's another thing is I'm bringing that up to these millennials because, my God, when you've done this 30 years, you've been burned so many times, you become jaded. Like, I don't like anything new. I mean, let the kids try the new stuff because the manufacturer says dental implant cement, that was tested on nothing.
Right.
Yeah, that was created in the marketing department, and then they laugh at the old guys who are seating implants with Dycal cement or zinc. All my restorations are seated with zinc phosphate cement.
All right.
And the millennials are like, well, that's hard to mix. Well, you're a doctor. Could you imagine getting a brain tumor removed and the best took like 3 steps? You're like, well, I don't want to take 3 steps. Dude, you're a doctor. It's a brain tumor. I'd rather go to a doctor that says, like bonding, there's etch, primer, bonding agent. And you're like, no, I just want to make a 1-step prompt-a-pulp where you put it all in one. And then it's not as good. And I mean, what's wrong? I mean, I'd rather just have it done right. And I think it's a tragedy that all this PeriImplantitis was sold to us by the biggest companies in dentistry, where it says dental implant cement right on the side of the bottle.
Right.
You wouldn't have sold that if you knew that. If you knew, if you were the one making that in Missoula, and people come back to you, man, you just leave a little flash of that and the whole implant fails, what would you have done?
Oh, I wouldn't put something out like that.
I know. Imagine that.
I'm a quality geek.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah, and I do. I see too many companies that don't test their products before they bring it to the market.
Which goes back to implants. You're doing this big all-on-4, you're doing this bridge, and you're charging $3,000 for it. And instead of buying an implant where you have scads of research, you find some $100 implant made in Tanzania or Tanzania or whatever the Tasmanian devil is, and it's like really? I mean, how would you like to get getting a bypass and you find out that they got all the instruments on eBay?
Right.
I mean, you would
And
think, well, I was hoping that going to this prestigious cardiologist that he was going to have the finest instruments made, and then you find out that he bought all this shit on eBay. To save a dime. But faster, easier always isn't higher quality. Sometimes you just have to slow down and do it. And the other thing I can say after 30 years, like when you talk about zinc phosphate cement, dude, you got half a century research on that.
That's right.
And you're using a cement that you bought on Amazon with no research. I mean, zero. And then I know friends like John Dovkin, who probably sees every single dental lawsuit malpractice case before his desk. And I'll tell you what, these implants are big cases, and they put you on the witness stand. There's 2 times you can really get grilled. One is you're using all this stuff with no research, and that will come out in trial. And then the other thing is, which I shouldn't say this because I know my homies get real mad at me when I say this, but gosh, Dan, they go to a weekend course on sedation, and then they lose a 2-year-old, and then they get you on trial, and they bring in a MD board-certified anesthesiologist who's been doing this 20 years and teaches at the university, and it shows the jury in 3 days of grilling that you're a complete idiot and had no idea what you're doing.
Right.
I mean, they have CPR. They don't have advanced cardiac life support. Well, where do you get this implant? A lot of times they don't even know. I mean, on dental, there's an app. There's an app called What Implant Is That? And on Dental Town, there's under implants, all he says, does anybody know what this is? It's like, why are you using something that 250,000 dentists on Dental Town don't even know what it is? And the dentists on Dental Town don't know what it is. I can't wait to see what the jury thinks when they see that you don't even know what it is.
Right.
You know?
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, it is.
Scary.
Yeah, when I get my artificial hip, I want it to be a brand name, solid.
Well, and also U.S. titanium, because Chinese titanium was recalled. It keeps getting recalled year after year because of the impurities and things. So you've got to make sure.
That reminds me of the first, Ryan, I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember the first Gocart I bought you boys? I bought you 2 of them, and they were made in China, and they were sold right at the store up the street from us. And on the first day, both of them, the frames bent and fell apart.
Oh no!
And we took back to the guy. He goes, yeah, it's really weird. This Chinese metal. Sometimes it's perfect, and other times it just falls apart. And then I dug deeper into it. And it's like they're buying used cars, and they're just melting down the car. So your motorcycle go-kart was just made out of a melted car.
Yeah.
How many of these are made out of bumpers?
None.
Yeah.
And there's so many instruments and instrument companies now that are U.S. based that have their instruments made in Pakistan. It's just incredible.
Right.
Or have Chinese manufacturing facilities, or it's It's incredible.
Yeah, Pakistan's about what 200 million people, and they really are into making instruments.
Yes.
Outsource instruments. That's one of their core competencies.
Yes. Well, and we pay probably 4 times the amount of standard stainless steel that I could get surgical stainless steel for to make sure it's U.S. steel that we're using. So it
what's
makes a difference.
What's got you passionate now? Or what else in your bag of tricks?
Actually, we're expanding into surgical instruments as well, dental surgery. So I have a scalpel handle, which I failed to bring with me, that's adjustable. So normally scalpel handles are straight, but with this you can loosen up the center of it. You can adjust the scalpel blade to the angle that you want and then tighten it back up. So it's more comfortable for you and your patients.
And who are your key opinion leader people working with on that?
These were working with some international leaders out of Germany.
Wow.
To develop those.
Yeah, I love that was another really neat deal by visiting all these companies. Mm-hmm. Me and Ryan lectured in 5 continents last year. I've been to dental manufacturing places all around the world. And the funniest story I like to tell is when I'll never forget when I was a kid and they rolled out the space shuttle, they had this big black arrow pointing to the gas tank. And I thought, well, I mean, I'm not a rocket scientist, but I don't need a big black arrow on the side of my car. I kind of know where the fuel tank is, and I kind of hope the astronauts and NASA knows where the fuel tank is. Mm-hmm. Why the hell does it have this big black arrow? And then I was lecturing in Germany and went and saw Liechtenstein and all these companies. And I mean, like in America, you say, "Where's the bathroom?" You say, "Well, you go down 3 halls." In Germany, you ask that question once, they solve it. So on the floor, it'd be like, "Oh, follow the red line. That's the men's room. The yellow, blue line's the women's. The yellow one's the front desk. So one's an emergency." Above every light switch was the instructions of how to use the light, the parameters. I mean. When I think of German manufacturing, it is so amazing. They're so intense, and I saw that in Japan too.
Oh yes.
But here's the other thing I saw that was very interesting. You go into Japanese and German and Liechtenstein. You go into those countries, and they have a bunch of PhD nerd geeks testing stuff, mm-hmm. but they don't have a marketing department or a call center.
Right.
And then you go to these American companies to say, well, where is your PhD researchers? Oh, we don't have a PhD. We don't have an R&D department. But then they got like a 30, 60-person telemarketing deal with a thermometer deal, and everybody's dialing for dollars. So Americans are the best in sales. Mm-hmm. The Germans and the Koreans are the best in manufacturing. And China wants to make it the cheapest. They just think, we'll just make it so cheap it doesn't work, you'll throw it away and buy another one. And mm-hmm. all 3 camps need to learn from each other. The Americans need to get quality. Mm-hmm. The Americans and the Chinese need to get, and the German and the Europeans need to get cheaper. And the China, I think the embarrassing part of China, if I was the president of China, is that, they just are making the components for all the major brands in Japan and Germany. Like when I think of South Korea, what do you think of? You think of Hyundai, Samsung. Mm-hmm. What's that? What's the TV? Life is Good.
Oh, yeah.
What is it?
LG.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, when you think of Japan, you think of Toyota, Honda. Okay. Mm-hmm. When I say China, name their brand.
I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they should stop focusing on being the cheapest, and they should start mm-hmm. building brands. I mean, you think of Germany, you think of Porsche and Audi and Mercedes. Come on, mm-hmm. China, you need to just quit making everything as cheap as possible. Start building a brand where you're proud to say, I like this brand.
Yes.
What I mean? Like name a brand out of Pakistan.
J&J Instruments.
J&J Instruments? But they're just outsourcing to J&J. But the country of Pakistan. Name a brand.
True. No, I can't. Yeah.
And that's what dentists need to do. You need to build your brand, and you are the brand. The dentist is the brand, and you see it in corporate dentistry. I can always spot so many red flags in corporate dentistry. Number one, not one of them can get publicly traded. Wall Street wouldn't touch any of them. East-West banks stopped funding them. They don't. If you got really, really sick, you would go to Mayo Clinic. Mm-hmm. You go to Cleveland Clinic. Mm-hmm. You go to Scripps in San Diego.
Yes.
You go to Sloan Kettering in New York, And when you got to Mayo Clinic, you wouldn't even care who the doctor is. You're just like, I'm at Mayo Clinic. And the oncologist walked in, said, this is the specialist for heart disease for short, fat, bald men. You would just trust it. But in corporate brands, they're just faster, cheaper, open hours, extended hours, coupons. That's not going to be the end game.
No.
The end game. And then when you look at the fact that the associate turnover, the patient turnover, I mean, Americans, the American dentists don't believe it, but half of America, that's 150 million people, when they get their tooth fixed, they really would like it done as good as possible. And you got to build that brand. You got to be Hyundai. You got to be Mercedes and Porsche. And your website doesn't show it. I mean, I'm on 10 different dentist websites a day, getting emails, and their website doesn't show me that they're Mercedes or Porsche or Honda. I mean, a lot of them have a stock photo of themselves, but you just reek of German engineering. You just reek of Mercedes and Honda.
And this weekend, one thing that I should have mentioned is Scott Fromm, Dr. Scott Fromm out of New York. He worked with us to develop a really unique curette it's a serrated curette to really pull out the granulation tissue as you're preparing for when you do an extraction. Get rid of that granulation tissue, let that heal up properly before you do your bone, or as you're getting ready to do bone grafting. And Scott Fromm worked with us to develop slade blades. So we've got a posterior and an anterior that we're developing and launching this weekend at the AAP. And
At the AAP.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta explain your acronym. There's
I'm
people
sorry.
in Nepal and China and Indonesia listening to you.
Right. The American Academy of Periodontics
And where's that meeting going to be at?
in Boston, I believe.
So in
Boston.
Boston. And when is that?
That's this weekend.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
The periodontists are smarter than the dentists. So they're having so what is it going to be? What's the date on that? So it's this weekend.
It's this weekend.
So they're going to have their meeting in next weekend, you say? So that's September 15th? Yeah, the dentists, they have the
is it next
Yankee.
weekend?
They have the Yankee in January. Have you ever been to Boston in January?
Oh, yes. Or Chicago in February.
I know. The periodontists, that's clutch. That they're having their meeting in the beautiful city of Boston.
Yes.
September 15th, that's like
Okay.
the perfect time of the year
yes.
to go to Boston. And the dentist's like, well, it was $12 cheaper per room to have the Chicago Midwinter meeting in the depth of February when frickin' Santa Claus wouldn't go there. And then it's like, and then at the end of the meeting, what do they do? All the meeting founders sit around and complain about how attendance is going down every year. And it's like, really? So you have it in February and you're bitching about your attendance? I don't know, Einstein. Why don't we get a Ouija board and sacrifice a goat and try to think about the periodontists? That for the rest of my life, I will say the periodontists are 10 times smarter than the general dentist. I mean, just that meeting alone. That's just, I mean, nobody with a room temperature IQ in Nome, Alaska would schedule the Chicago Midwinter and the Yankee when the general dentists go there. Have I offended enough people yet? Is there anybody else I can offend? I mean, really, you go to Chicago in May or September, like the Greater New York meeting.
Yes.
It's right after Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving weekend.
It is
every
the
year.
perfect. I mean, if you want to go to Manhattan, actually what?
It is. It's
Oh
a
my
perfect
God,
time to be
it's
in Manhattan.
Perfect.
Yes.
And then these people that have gone to Chicago Midwinter and Yankee 5 times each. Mm-hmm. You start quizzing about the city, they haven't even seen the city because they were running from the cab to the room because it was 12 below zero and sleet. And if they would have gone to the Chicago in April or May or September, October, they would have just walked for hours. I mean, every time I go to the Greater New York, I mean, but the day before the show, the day after the show, I mean, we'll just leave the hotel room and we're just walking and we won't get back to our hotel room for like 12 hours.
Oh, yes,
Of
us
just
too.
playing, just walking and roaming and playing. You can't do that when it's 12 below.
No.
So what's the future for you?
Boy, I have lots of instruments to design, a lot of new things to do. Keep doing what I'm doing and loving it.
Nice.
New ideas. Anybody who has new ideas? I'd
Well,
love to hear. New challenges?
You remember that the commercial, I like this shaver so much, I bought the company?
Yes.
You need to be the face of your company. You need to get on Dental Town, Hygiene Town. Be your face, be the logo. Engage your customers. Tell them what you're doing. I don't agree with the Ortho Town model that it's an orthodontist only club. If the orthodontists were all talking to all the people making all their brackets and wires and all that stuff, they would do it better, faster, easier. And I like the way you're just humble. You listen to the dentist, the hygienist, your customers. You hustle. I mean, you're going to Boston next week when you don't have to. You coming by here and doing a podcast. And you don't have to. I mean, you're humble, you're hustle, you're amazing. I know so many people on the boards. All you got to do is just search for your company, and you have raving fans. So thank you so much for all that you do for dentistry.
Thank you, Howard.